Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the Euro Trade. My name is Marcus Stalker D. I've been trading for 18 years. 13 years out of that, I've been a prop trader for various prop firms. And I've got frogs in my throat because I haven't really spoken to anyone yet. So, yes, good morning. I am in a long copper trade at the moment. This is a setup that I refer to as the Frankie fake out, where we have a flush down either just before London or during the first sort of 30 minutes. And then the London reverses whatever Asia has done, and typically at least goes to VWAP. Now, today we did open inside value, tried pushing outside of it, and then we hit this 1-day minimum area, which is taken from the options volatility, projected volatility for basically the next day based on previous day's activities. So I saw some big buying coming in. Promptly price reacted the other side. So here we are. Let's see what happens around VWAP. Now, if it starts to falter around VWAP, obviously I will close this trade out. But at the moment, I do have a target all the way up to GEX1, which is 65 evens. But, I'll be happy with anywhere between sort of 500 to 700 to start the day. If this trade reaches all the way up to GEX1, then I probably won't be trading anymore for the day, and I will lock out this account for the day. But yeah, let's see what happens. Right now, we managed to extend the initial balance higher. And we have a minor GEX level around 462. So if we cannot get above 462, that will be this trade over. So yeah, interesting start to the day. Asia has been short, and more short. So obviously if we go above VWAP, that will change the sentiment for the day. And possibly put me looking to the upside, which has been a theme for copper. Now, the daily chart, let's have a look at the daily chart. Let me just get rid of some executions because they're going to be a bit messy. Close this down. It is a huge range on the daily, so we want to keep in mind that swings are probably not available currently until this range breaks. That's the way I'm looking at it. So yeah, 4-hour chart. This move came right from the bottom of the 4-hour swing, previous 4-hour swing. This happened yesterday during Asia, so that's when it was created. And now we're seeing a bit of a pivotal bounce from that area, but whether that's going to be sustained or not remains to be seen, obviously. One good thing about this trade is that we did manage to create some volume on the way up and clearly to pop the initial bounce to the upside. But if this fails the auction and gets outside of the value area low, which is sitting at 61.20, that will invalidate the trade. So yeah, danger area is VWAP at 62.55. If we cannot tackle that, this will end up as more of a scalp than anything else. So yeah. Anne Marie is asking me in general, do I like to keep executions on my charts? Not really. I don't really like putting them on. Sometimes if I've done a bit more trading, I will definitely look back to see exactly what that looked like after the fact, to basically see what is it that I was doing and whether I was going along with my own levels. If that's not the case, then my journal will be all about making sure that I tighten up the rules around the levels that I have, and to remind myself to keep in mind the 30-minute chart close, which is a TPO close as well. But no, I don't really like having executions on the chart all the time because I think they just clutter things up. I was thinking if I was going to take this off before the stream started, because it is an early setup, that I was going to just put the executions on so that you guys can see exactly where I entered and exited. As it turns out, trade is still on, so we can talk it through in real time. Getting a bit of a reaction from that 462 GEX4 area. I didn't mark it. Maybe I should, just for clarity. And yes, chat, I know that I have a lot of lines here, but each one serves a purpose. So this was GEX4. Minor GEX level can still bring a little bit of a wiggle and also can be a stopping point because we also have 9 EMA on the 30-minute chart. We also have VWAP right above there. I would like it to reach at least VWAP, and obviously my final target would be 465. Is that a bit too ambitious? Maybe. For now, we're just gonna watch it. So what I'm looking for now is for copper to stay above the initial balance. If that cannot happen, that will also be the invalidation. So I have like a few ways of invalidating this trade. And in my eyes, invalidating a trade with orientation points that are in and around the current price action, if there is any, that's a very important piece of the puzzle. If you're just high on hopium and going, oh yeah, this is going to go all the way up here, but you're not paying attention to what's coming up, I would argue that you're not being objective enough and you're just high on hopium. But yeah, how's chat doing? How's everybody doing? How was your week? Monday. Angel says, yeah, I had a bad day with gold, did something very stupid, I'll lock myself out for today, thanks. Yeah. So we will have Muppet moments. Nobody is fully immune from that, even after 18 years, you know, nearly 2 decades of me doing this. But yeah. My Pomeranian is unhappy for some reason. What do you want, Bon? What's up? What's all the growling about? You want to go see your babies? But some of your babies are in here. So yeah, now we wait. We sit and wait. We chat. Paul H says, good morning. Good morning, Paul. Always good to see you. He's saying, driving and listening for the next 30 minutes, and then I'll be watching too. Excellent. That's what we want to see. Gator Trader says, I love that you use volume profile. I recently became a fan of it myself. I adore using it to scalp in and out of Asia session with gold and MES. Yes, D. MES with it alongside of RSI divergence, reversals is boss. Yeah, so I would agree with this. I use a combination of TPO profile and volume profile for my decisions. I'm not liking this 15 at 60.35. So you know what? Why don't we book this? Because I'm okay with 496. Wouldn't be okay with losing all of it out. And these sort of trades, this Frankie fake out, it's not really a swing trade. It's usually a trade where you go in and maybe you stay for about 45 minutes and then it usually starts to wiggle around. Is there a possibility this is going to go to 465? Yes, but I just don't want this going all the way back to 459.75, which is where the 30-minute demand from this reversal happened. And seeing how we're having trouble exiting the initial balance. For now, this is not conducive to further upside move. So best to take the 496 in profit and just see what happens later. There's always opportunities throughout the day. Yeah, Gator Trader, going back to your comment, I feel like volume profile and TPO profile are two things that will definitely make you stay out of more silly trades that you wouldn't have seen otherwise if you were only looking for like MAs and some of the more sort of traditional ways of looking at the market, because it gives you the idea of where the distribution curve is, but it also gives you an idea of how the auction is progressing or not progressing. And here's another thing. I've got the visible volume profile here, and I can see that we are currently in a very, very thick area. There's a little bit of a low volume node between 62.75 and 63.50. Now, because this is a visible volume profile, it will heavily be dependent on where the actual where the price is actually located. If we're inside a high volume node, that's generally a slower movement, and it can be a lot more chop than if you were in just a thin volume area. So for the Frankie fake out, this is actually on the bigger side. Usually you get like 20 to 30 ticks out of it, and I got what, 40 something plus, so not a bad day. Yeah, not a bad start to the day. Anne-Marie wants to know, do I speak Serbian to my dogs? Just wondering if they were bilingual. No, unfortunately, I have not taught them anything in Serbian because my husband is English and pretty much useless for all languages. We've been together, it's going to be 20 years in June, and he still only knows like 3 words in Serbian. So me teaching dogs to speak another language might be a little bit too much for everybody involved. So no, they only speak English. John Henry is asking me, do I ever get tired of talking? Well, I'm a woman, so no. It might surprise you, John, that yeah, sometimes we have really long days. Let's say that I've been on, sometimes we're on for fast markets. And, at the beginning of TopstepTV, I had like stints of 3 hours being on the fast markets. And then we started doing the Euro trade, and then I would be doing another sort of hour to an hour and a half talking. And then sometimes I would be on for very late in the day. Well, on those days, if I sit down to have dinner with my husband and he goes, hey, let's have a chat. I'm just like, I can't talk anymore, I'm sorry. But yeah, generally, if I'm only on for like, 3 hours per day, not a big deal. But when it starts to get to like 6, 7, 8 hours of talking, yeah, it gets a bit tiresome. But yeah. Okay, so another question. Do you get your London value from Asia Open to London Open? No, so I am very session specific. So let's say you have Tokyo and then London opens, and there's an hour in between when Tokyo is closed. That's Eurex starts, and then you have the London Open. So I will always cut off the current session wherever the next session is coming from if there is an overlap. With London and USA, there's obviously an overlap. I don't count, for example, COMEX start is a part of the London session because it's different players, a lot more volume, completely different goals. So the way I do my London value, and by the way, this is data specific as well, because we've done tests on this, which value is more correct. The one that is very specific to the London Open all the way to COMEX Open, that is how I do my London value. So I cut it off. And in my Blatic indicators, I have a way of controlling that. So if I go to my indicator list, and by the way, we are translating these into Ninja for now. However, this is MetaTrader 5 via AMP, which is real futures, thanks to CQG data. If you go to our settings here, there's a lot of like customizations that you can do. We even have iCustom calls for those of you who want to do coding and stuff. But here is the schedule, right? So this is first session, second session, third session. I currently have this set to Hong Kong for some reason. Well, actually, I know the reason, but yeah, I'm just gonna do it like this. So COMEX beginning and end. I take the entirety of the move, so not just the portion of the former open pit hours, but I use like the entire electronic session. Then I have the London session, which is from 8 till 1:30 p.m., which is COMEX start for my time of day. And then here we have Tokyo, which is midnight till 7 a.m. So that's how I do my profiles. And my charts are very pretty. So hoping we can replicate that in the future for other platforms as well. Rich says, maybe easier to teach the dogs than the husband. Well, considering that we have one dog that does talk, he uses one of those fluent pet buttons. I never really like pushed them. I showed the buttons to everybody and used them myself. That's how you model things for dogs. And then 3 of them took to the buttons, but one of them started talking. It's our biggest boy, Bernard. Is he around? Yeah, he's asleep over there in the corner. He likes the sunshine, so he moves through the house looking for sunspots to rest. Yeah, he started creating sentences, and we started with very simple words that were of interest to him, but not food related, because if you get them onto the food buttons, they will never learn anything else. So that's a mistake that I see people make. But yeah, Bernard, when he's like super happy, doesn't use the buttons that much, but as soon as he wants something, like for example, we haven't been to the doggy daycare for a while because we moved house, and I have to enroll them in the new one. I'm still waiting for them to come back to me. And he keeps going up to the buttons and asking, doggy school, doggy school. And I'm like, Bernie, not yet, soon, but not yet. He also knows the concepts of now, later, tomorrow. He knows spaces. Like it's mind-blowing. I can't believe that I sometimes have conversations with my dog, right? And then if he's extra hungry because he ran a lot, now he does have a food button, and he will use combinations of hungry, come, now, hungry. And every time he wants to display urgency, he presses the button multiple times in succession, like to get his point across. And it's weird that we didn't know that dogs actually had this ability. Not all of them, obviously. I have 8 dogs, and out of all of them, only Bernard took really to the conversational part of it. The rest of them are a bit random, but they know. Like I have one of the females, not the super cutesy one with the tongue hanging out, but the other one, the black and tan female. She likes to call out people when they're out of the house. So for example, whenever my husband goes to the gym, she goes to the buttons and she goes, James went. Or if I'm in the other room, she goes, D. And I was like, yes, what do you want? And she usually just wants food, so yeah. Alexander said, mine can tell left from right. We teach him warm whenever he's close to what he's looking for. Look behind you and he turns. Yeah, it's amazing. It's absolutely amazing. Amara says, Deeyana can win the Nobel Peace Prize because she proved dogs are better at learning than most human beings. Well, dogs have this like we're teaching them through negative and positive conditioning, right? So, you know, if they do something right, they get a biscuit, they get a treat, right? I don't know, I think that kind of works on humans as well. Not for biscuits, but for things that you want. I've used it on myself in trading, if I'm going to be honest. I like to put people on the writing exercise. You know how Bart Simpson, if you ever watched The Simpsons, in the beginning, he's always doing something wrong. So the teacher tells him, I will not do this, I will not do that on the big blackboard. If you do that for yourself in a constructive way, so not going, oh, I will not be a Muppet, I will not be a Muppet, that's not going to do anything for you. But if you, let's say, spend 7 days every evening before bed, and it has to be before bed because there's a very special thing that happens to our brains while we're sleeping. And let's say you have trouble with going off of breakouts that are hurting you. So let's say we have range bound markets across the board, you know, most things are consolidating, and you find that you cannot stop doing breakouts. Why? Because NASDAQ teaches you the breakouts will work for most people. But then we have days when that just doesn't work. And here we are sort of, ambling around stuck in ranges. Then it breaks out, but before that happens, you guys get chopped up. So if you want to stop yourself from doing that and look for maybe more solid ways of price breaking out of an area, consider spending the next 7 days before bedtime writing out 25 times, I will wait for price action to be sustained above the breakout. I will wait for the price action to be sustained above the breakout. And you will be surprised how even after 3 days, you wake up on the 4th day and you're like, oh, it's a breakout. Hold on. Let's wait to see if it's sustained. It's like this thing that happens with your neural networks that's quite interesting. And same thing with negative conditioning as well. So if you want to stop yourself from continuously going into an overtrading mode, you will say to yourself, you will write down, I will stop trading after n number of trades. Like, so let's say I will stop trading after 5 trades. I will stop trading after 5 trades. I will stop trading. And again, after a few days, you will find that stopping trading with no lockouts, no nothing, it will become easier. Now, Anne-Marie is in the chat. She does have a background in neuroscience as well, if I'm not mistaken. So maybe she can one day come on to tell us how that really works. But it's worked for me. It's worked for a lot of my students. And I've even suggested it for my VIPs in the previous season. And a couple of them took to it and they actually managed to sort out some of their issues through this process. So, whether dogs are good at learning or whether we have a very good way of teaching them through positive and negative reinforcement, that's up to debate. But I'm not the one who made this up. There's a very famous Instagram and TikTok dog called Bunny. And it's I think her handle is All About Bunny. She is a part of a huge research of like 1,500 dogs that are all being taught to speak through the buttons. And if you don't know about the buttons, it's for non-verbal autistics who can't communicate but not through verbal speech. So they give them buttons and they have words on them and that's how they communicate. So they thought maybe this would work on dogs as well. And for some of them, yeah, it will work. Not for all. So, for those that are not really interested in buttons, I don't force them. The buttons are there if they want to use them. If they don't, that's absolutely fine. But Bernie, the chatty man, he really took to it. He'll be learning to trade soon. Every so often he comes over and says, yeah, you're long. Not sure that's a good idea. Very judgmental. Do you ever trade NQ during the session? No, NQ is one of my hated products. I don't know, NQ is just so much drama, man, for me. So much drama. I've always been a commodities trader. I do trade DAX. I find it smoother. I trade YM during the New York session sometimes, not every day. I wouldn't say like, let's see what YM's doing. But every so often I'll be like, maybe I'll look at YM because, it's especially when I've had a big day, right? If I've gone over like 2-3 grand and I'm like, right, maybe I can pop in a YM trade just to kind of add a little bit onto whatever's going on today. When I have a buffer, I will look at it. And then on DAX, these sessions were supposed to be DAX sessions. Unfortunately, we still don't have Eurex. I hope it's coming. I hope it's coming. I will wait. I can wait. I'm a very patient person, so Let's see. Is this gold push legit? Let's have a look at it. I don't have any open trades in the moment. See what the volume is doing. And into what this thing is going. All right, I would say it is legit because we've gone over the former put support from 0DTs at 32.30. And again, remember the concept that I just mentioned. Are we sustaining above a relevant area or not? That is the question, right? I would say we're sustaining with a little bit of volume as well. So yeah, I would say this is legit. We do have some troublesome areas at 32.40 and 32.50. 3240 is a HVL from 0 DTEs, and then 3250, same level that we were talking about on the opening call, and also the same level that we use as orientation on the opening call. I do believe yesterday the house account did an opening trade when I was on from 32.43.6, if I'm correct. We managed to survive through this whipsaw, and then it gave us, you know, a little bit more downside. I don't know when. I had to leave the house, so I don't really know when they actually took it off. So if anyone knows, yeah, if anyone knows, let me know where we took it off. So yeah, I hope they took a decent chunk out of it. And then, you know, here you have the whole post NY cut reversal, which I always warn about after 9 a.m. Central, which is 3 p.m. London time. You get a reversal. So I do hope they took it off somewhere around there. But yeah, whatever happened, they took some cash from it. And then we were talking about the crude oil trade. I wasn't very keen on that. It did end up going higher before it reversed. But I don't know, it was the whole area where crude oil was yesterday was not, to me, not a very good location for an opening range trade. Now, gold. What's going on the higher time frame? Let's have a look at the daily. Still range bound. Still range bound. Still no resolution to this consolidation, either side. So I would still err on the side of using the 3250s as a target, rather than chasing for some, like, you know, huge swing from here, because whilst we're range bound, we cannot be chasing massive swings, because the swings are not available at that point. We need to wait for the resolution of the consolidation before we can decide to run trades that have more legs towards the other side of the market structure. Now, if I zoom out even more, this is still middle of the middle. We still have this 3000 area of demand waiting, just waiting. We have a supply that is reactive. This was the first test. Every subsequent test of the supply becomes more and more dodgy and more conducive to further breakouts. This area might slow things down, because anytime you come into an area of a swing extreme where a lot of buying and selling happened, that caused the price to stay away from it for an extended periods of time, a number of periods, whichever time frame you're looking at, it will cause trouble. So it might act as a speed bump, but the more test it has, the less likely it is that it's going to hold upon the next test. And if the tests are fairly quick, like let's say we didn't move away super far away, and it's just exiting the area, then popping back in, pushing a little higher, exiting the area just a little bit, then pushing back into it, that is, to me, more a situation for a breakout than the one where we create a supply, move away from it by a gazillion ticks, then come back, then do the same thing. So, you know, but that's what you're working with, 3,400 and 3,000 to both sides. But again, it's a range on the daily, 3250, as a pivotal area for either continued range or a potential breakout with the trend that we've had. Although you could argue that the trend has changed because we created a new lower low, just looking at it from the most basic way. Are there higher highs, higher lows, lower highs? And right now, we have a bit of a channel going. So we have a high around 35.15. Then we have a pop into that supply at 34.50, creating a lower high, right? And we also created one low at 32.39 and another lower low at 31.23.8 to be exact, so 24. Julie says, where can I buy the button machine? I buy it from Fluent Pet. I can put it in, like, I'm not, this is not like affiliate or anything. So just Google Fluent Pet, and they have these really nice buttons. You will have to record either your own sound or somebody else's voice onto it. So Bernie talks in my voice, apart from one button where he recorded it. So all of the other buttons are in my voice, and then there's this one with a deep male voice going 7, and all the rest I'm like, cow, like my little high parody voice. But yeah, so if you're interested in starting your dogs on the Fluent Pet, it's pretty fun. It's pretty fun. But just remember, you have to model the words. The more you use it, the more they will use it as well. So it's not like, you just show them the button and that's it. You also need to be very contextual with it. I suppose it's like trading, right? You can't just use a level, a price action. It has to be a situational awareness thing. So with the buttons, which was the first one that I started with? I started with the one outside, because obviously we needed them to go outside to do their business. So and if your dog doesn't know how to shake yet, that would be the first step. So there's like a pre-training that must be done with targeting. So you first get them to touch your fist. Why? Because you have a treat in there. So don't take their paw and put it on yours. They need to do it themselves, and the easiest way to do it is just to grab a treat, put it in your fist, and then get them to try and start pouring. As soon as they do that, open up the hand and give them the treat, and then just repeat. Once you've done that, you need a button to actually target. I'm just going to use my coaster here. So then you do the same thing. You put the treat in your hand and you hold the button, and then they sort of touch the button, and eventually you put it on the floor. And for me it took I think for the ones that didn't know how to shake or anything, like Lisbon came to us as an 18-month dog and didn't know anything. She didn't even know how to sit. It was really quite terrible, and it took about 6 weeks for her to learn to target the button, and then from there onwards it was easy. But the puppies, we taught them from when they were like 3 weeks old, because they were born with us. So yeah. So by the time they were like, 2 months old, they were all like pressing buttons going outside. So now we have 8 of them that all press buttons to go outside. And then after that, I put cuddle button, because Bernie is a big cuddle boy. So I knew that was going to be of interest. And yeah, I just carried on, adding things. But with the cuddle, I would press the cuddle, and then I would give him a little rub, and then again cuddle, give him a little cuddle, and then he started asking for it. So initially there was only like 2 or 3 buttons, but then we grew, and now we're up to, I think he's got about 20 buttons on that board right now, and he uses most of them as well. He likes to call his brothers to play by pressing their name. So he goes, River. Dogs calling brother in English. Yeah, that's a TikTok, isn't it? Current view on NatGas. Let's have a look at NatGas. I don't really fancy trading NatGas this early on most days, unless there's like some very good reason for it. So by the way it looks to me, I would probably be trying to short this if we get into a lot of stuff here. Hold on, let me clean it up. If we get into a NYMEX session, and let's say that we have a big move up, this is a daily chart, we're coming in from a demand. Is it seasonally time for nat gas to rise? Probably not yet. When the warmer weather comes in, then there is a kick up in demand for natural gas. But for now, I would be a bit skeptical about this. But, let's see what the technicals are telling us. We do have a pretty decent move for London now. On a 4-hour chart, we have a reversal. We have a supply visible at 324.0, which is quite a ways away, but that's what the technicals are saying. And let's have a look at the profiles. GEX1 on NatGex is at 320, but be careful with options outside of the NYMEX hours, because I found that they're a little bit unreliable for London, and then when NYMEX kicks in, you can start using them as orientation points again. But out of hours, it's all just a little bit non-committal. I'm just gonna find my chart of NatGas. Oh, I should have had some food. I'm starving. I don't usually eat in the morning, but I came off keto because we were doing so many things that I just couldn't find. I didn't even know what this area is going to be like and whether we're going to have supermarkets. As it turned out, we have 3 supermarkets. So, and we counted at least 9 restaurants. We tried 2. Both of them were really good quality. And every time I come off keto, I find that I'm really hungry in the morning. We're opening below value on that gas, so I'm just gonna drag this over for efficiency purposes. And yes, I'm a psycho with white charts. We know that. Above VWAP, Globex VWAP is the purple line. Again, coming into a little bit of an area of a speed bump during yesterday's NYMEX. This is where they tried to reverse it pre-market and then just carried on going down. But today, so far, sustained activity with single prints above initial balance. Is this a mean reversion opportunity? It could be. What is the volume doing? Let's have a look. Same chart, 30 minutes. I mean, look at this volume. Yeah, this is why natural gas is like a bit weird at this time of day. But you know what? We can do micros. We can do MNG. Because I don't want to put like a huge dent in the P&L that I've already done. But we can do 5 micros here, so half the size. Usually I like to use 35 ticks to 45 ticks on nat gas. Right now we have a pretty decent ADR of about 150, and there was more during the volatility. However, I found nat gas was actually surprisingly sane during the tariffs. It was very directional, so you would kind of catch one move and it would just keep going. Yeah, let's wait until I actually need full size here because the micros are not that representative of what's going on. MNG here as well on the main chart. This is, I think, from yesterday. And just to make things a bit more obvious, we're going to put the initial balance. There's a little red box like that. So that was the initial balance. Why do I say single prints? Is because we moved far from it and then the next candle did not overlap into them. So that is something that we call single prints. And that is something that can be pretty useful in market sentiment. Now, if the single prints get closed off, you either have an auction fade with the possibility of a hybrid failed auction because we're so close to the initial balance, or we have a potential for a big trending day. Now, this is an out of hours market, so I wouldn't put too much stock into a big trending day because there's like more of a random walk, especially in this area. This is Asia. But yeah, let's see if we can maybe get a trade into the overlap and then take it off before NYMEX kicks in. I don't like to carry over trades in natural gas or crude oil or RBOB from the overlap into NYMEX because it's just too spiky and then you have bigger expanded ranges and a whole host of problems. Let me see if I can see any imbalance on the dome. So I have my micro here. Just need to make sure I don't make the mistake of trading 5 minis because that won't be comfortable. I mean, it's kind of a bit non-committal now. So they pushed it and then just got stopped. The Gex 4, again, not that reliable, but it is located at 315. And that would mean a failure of the auction. So that's not good for longs. And I would need it to stay exactly where it is now. So we don't want it pulling back. Let's just jump down to 2-minute chart and get my ribbon back in play because I switched it off for a time. Let's have a look. Does anyone else see a potential buy on NQ getting close? Again, this is, I feel like NQ is covered so much, okay? It's covered so much. It's covered on every single YouTuber channel that you can see. And yet, here's a shocker. It's not the only product that moves. I know, right? I don't really trade NQ at all. And someone mentioned earlier, I just saw your monthly report. Where was it? Yeah, I saw your March performance. Yeah, March performance, but also May performance and April performance. I posted it everywhere, right? In fact, we can kind of go through that here. Let's go down. So this is what we're working with. I've already taken, like from the current XFAs that I have two. I've already taken 15K out of them, so keep that in mind. This was my April performance, and there was another one that was in March. This is not that one, this is a newer one. But yeah, that's what we're working with. So it's 2 months. You know, consistency, yeah? Downside risk control. Not letting the red days get too out of control. It's probably the main thing. And then you just keep pushing, keep going, keep pushing. Yeah, so I believe that NQ is covered so much that to have yet another show where we talk yet again about NQ. I don't trade it, don't care for it, not really a core equities trader. And to me, natural gas, copper, platinum, gold, you know, these days I'm not trading gold all that much. I'm waiting for the ranges to come back to normality because I don't want to be using, according to my methodology, I have to use enough of a stop loss to survive a 30-minute average movement because I go for larger swings. So if I'm going to go for a full 150, 200 tick swing on something like copper, 35, 28, 45 tick stop, absolutely fine. But on gold, if we expand it to the volatility of the product that we're working with, I would need to go for 400 and 500 ticks profits, which is great, but I'm not comfortable risking 140 ticks. I'm just not. And then if you look at how range bound gold has been, I don't like to trade gold that has like massive 30-minute ranges and is also range bound. So if it starts trending, I would absolutely jump on that. But for now, it's just like, it's got the vom factor. I look at it and I just go, where's the bucket? All right, let's try 5 micro nat gas on a 35 tick stop. Again, if I do carry this over into the overlap, I want to base my stops on the more volatile side of things, not London, and then you get into the overlap and it just goes smack, and you're like, ouch. And you just, and NG just bitch slapped me, ouch. What is my ethnicity? My ethnicity is Mediterranean, so we're a bit of a melting pot over in our part of the world. So I was born and raised in Serbia, but I am also Greek and Italian by sort of genetic lineage. And if you go back like far enough, because we can actually trace where my dad's family is from, because it's a very, in that region, it's like a very unique name. And he even has Turkish lineage in him. So it's like a whole big melting pot, but basically white Mediterranean. I know that some people say that I can look mixed race, which is amazing. I think mixed race people are some of the most beautiful people that you will see. I'm sadly not. I'm just white. It's plain white. But obviously olive skinned, because, you know, Mediterranean is white people with darker complexions. Isn't that confusing? But yeah, born and raised Serbian though. NDB says, thank you for a nice explanation. Was your, yeah, okay, we're going into natural gas. I've just done that. How long have I been trading for? Sazmeet wants to know. 18 years. So I started in 2007. And no, I was not super young. I was 27 years old back then. So it was kind of a late start considering how early some people start with trading. You know, you have Dakota who started messing around, staring at the charts when he was 9. And then pretty much traded well from when he was 14. That's not me. So I was a musician from 1994 when I was 14. So I was a bit of a prodigy in music. And then I was a rock and pop musician. I also have a classical degree in flute. And I also have a partial degree in music production, which I did at University of Westminster in London. So I did session musician stuff, recording artists, working for well-established artists for about 20 years, really, across the three countries that I worked in. And then I kind of got interested in trading. Like, it was always something that I wanted to do, but I thought because I wasn't very scientifically minded, because I was a musician, that wasn't possible for me. And then I realized through a friend who was a trader, he said to me, listen, you have a natural intelligence that even I don't have. I think you will be pretty good. You are a musician. That's a transferable skill. And I was like, how is that a transferable skill? That makes no sense. And then he goes, it's because it's pattern-based. And you as a musician, you probably have to have pretty good memory. And I was like, yeah, I have photographic memory. I have like thousands of songs in my head and I can pull each one of them out like that. And he was like, yeah, see, that's a transferable skill. So we started talking and he breaks out his laptop with candlestick charts. To me, they look like music note sheet. So I was like, what is this? And I just became totally obsessed. So here we are, 18 years later. And this is now my main career. So music has taken a back seat for a multitude of reasons. But I got the guitar, like if you see over there in the corner, I don't know whether the camera actually catches that. I got one of my guitars out. Maybe I can just make the room bigger. So you see that thing over there? That's one of my Ibanez guitars. So I don't know, maybe I'll start playing again. Yeah. Justina is asking me, what's your favorite comfort food if you exclude keto? Full on pizza. Like, how Italian is that? Of course I'm gonna go pizza. Yeah, pizza is my my kryptonite. Like, I absolutely love pizza. Now, luckily on keto, you can sort of make it with these, like, it's dirty keto, but it's still sort of keto. So you make it with these low-carb wraps that have modified starch in them. So even if you eat it, it doesn't get absorbed as, like, normal carbs. And then you can make it, like, with, you know, nice sort of tomato sauce and with all the mozzarella that you could wish for and everything. So yeah. Right, this nat gas is not really moving, is it? It's just like, I had to check whether my internet was on. But yeah, definitely pizza FTW. What was the logic behind the NG long? Let's go back to the daily charts. And the fact that the London session always goes the opposite way, or 70% of the time goes the opposite way to whatever the other one will do. So here is the daily view. Here's the daily view, Joe. And if I put a structure behind this is the demand. Is this going to be a super swing? No. Like if I can catch this in the next sort of, 45 minutes, a bit of a pump to the upside, I'd be happy with 35 ticks there. It's fine. So yeah, demand area from the daily chart, and then from the point of view of the intraday side of things, extension of the initial balance upside whilst we're sitting also above VWAP and opening below yesterday's value from London, which is located at 3.196. So this would be a mean reversion attempt back to value. So really my final target here would be no more than 3.2, which is also where we have another GEX level, which is GEX 1, pretty strong level. Now I went in with micros, so let's go back to that. So now you have a bit more context, and therefore I will not be looking for more than this. So this is my version of a scalp, right? You aim for about 35, 40 ticks, but it's still a setup. So it's still daily demand, initial balance succession upside, mean reversion to value. Every time people overcomplicate the whole study of market profile, and it is complex, but in its core, it's literally this. Are we inside a distribution curve or outside of it, and by how far? That's what it is. And then how far you are, it tells you whether mean reversion is possible. So obviously if you're within ballpark 1% from the distribution curve, from the value area, a mean reversion to it is actually the highest probability trade you can have. If, on the other hand, you have something like a move that brought us 3% away, I would argue that that's actually a reprice, that it's not a mean reversion opportunity, but rather something came out, we had some news, and we moved the market to the new level. Like complete price discovery, and you're not expecting it to go back, but it's all to do with the distance from value, and that's like your simplest, most basic explanation of market profile and volume profile that you can have. Killian is asking, how is my energy level? When I did keto, I was drained for the following week. Okay, so here's the thing. Fat adaptation, to teach your body to convert dietary fats for fuel, is a process that can take up to 3 months. And that's if you're like super strict. Here's the process. Now let's go into fitness, because I did bodybuilding for years and years, and I was keto throughout all of that. If you're doing CrossFit or long distance running, keto probably, or something like powerlifting, keto is not for you, because you need that initial pump from the glycogen reserves that always comes from carbs. Keto is slower, it's slow release. But if you're strict and if you want to go with keto, and please don't take this as medical advice, because if you have anything wrong with you medically, please just ask a proper nutritionist who is preferably also a doctor, even though you have to look for those high and wide, because there's not that many of them. But yeah, if you are looking to go keto, some tips. You need electrolytes that are keto specific. There is a company called Dr. Berg that do keto electrolytes. So there is sweeteners in there, but you will be doing sweeteners on keto anyway. So those of you who are like, oh, but the sweeteners are really bad for you. Well, you have stevia. That's pretty much, it's a plant, isn't it? It's not nasty sweeteners. But I frankly don't really subscribe to the whole artificial sweeteners are bad for you. Because, I've actually had them for the full, however long I've been drinking like Diet Coke and stuff, and I'm, absolutely fine. The problem came from the fact that one of the sweeteners and I can't pronounce its name. It starts with A. It's either aspartame or aspartame. I don't know, but it's one of those. It basically they found that it kills one of the bacteria in your gut when consumed excessively. So if you're gonna, smash down 2-liter bottles of Coke Zero every day, probably not the best choice, okay? But if you're gonna have a tin of Coke every so often, you'll be fine. You'll live. And the funny thing that always amuses me is that people who usually make those statements are people that I meet at random parties. They will also happily take substances that are very suspicious, and they have no problem with that, but then they would turn around and tell you that they don't like taking paracetamol. So it's like, okay, Sniffany, carry on. So yeah, but keto, load up on electrolytes. When you're on keto, your sodium and potassium and even your magnesium levels they get decimated, because usually you get those sorts of electrolytes and minerals from other foods. And now that you go keto, you're effectively reteaching your body how to use fat for fuel. And it is a big process. The first step that happens is that your glycogen reserves get drained completely. So you're like, now what? Your body starts freaking out. And the ketones that will eventually work as fuel are created in your liver. So until you drain the glycogen, the process cannot even start. This is why if you keep consuming carbs, even in moderate amounts, it's just going to take so much longer for you to actually fat adapt. But once you get to a point where you've been strict, and the easiest way to do keto is literally just meat and salad with no dressing. So if you want dressing, make it from like simple vinegar, oil, and salt, maybe a bit of water to kind of make it a little bit more palatable. And just eat literally salad with a vinaigrette and a steak. Sadly, because of my long COVID, I can't do those sorts of proteins, but I can do duck and lamb still. And vegan proteins. And I have to be a little bit more careful with vegan proteins because they do have some carbs in them. But load up on electrolytes, steak and salad. That's basically your thing. And eggs. If you can do eggs in the morning, steak and salad, steak and salad, steak and salad, done. Or chicken and salad, or anything. People who try to go keto and then they get one of these meal plans online, and I see the first thing is like in a meal plan, keto muffins, and I'm like, what do you have for keto muffins? Who's gonna bake at 6 a.m. in the morning? Like, come on, be a little bit more realistic. So the way I do keto is very lazy. My husband is even lazier than me. He just eats peanuts. I'm intolerant to peanuts, so I can't do that. But he just literally has eggs, peanuts, peanut butter, and cream in his coffee, and that's his keto. That's how he does keto. I'm a little bit more elaborate because I have to pay attention to what I'm eating due to my digestive problems, but yeah, it can be done in a quicker way, but just beware that you will be absolutely knackered. Some people also, that means tired, by the way, that also goes with keto rage that some people experience. So I've seen this where they just get so angry, and I'm like, what's wrong with you? They're like, I'm on keto. It's like, okay. I don't have that, but I do have the headaches that go with the first couple of days. And then once your body rebalances, you'll probably need to drink more water as well as this whole process is happening. But electrolytes with water is what you want. You don't just want to smash down 3 liters of water for no reason, because you're just going to, pee it out effectively. So, yeah. So there you go. That's your fitness lecture on the trading channel for today. How to go keto and how long it takes. Brooksy says meat, oily fish, green veg, eggs, and some nuts. Yeah, I can't do nuts en masse. Like, I react to almonds. Hazelnuts are just about okay, but I don't know why. I just have this weirdness. Like, I have some almonds, and I first feel sick, and then I get the most raging headache ever. Typical signs of intolerance. So I don't do the I don't do nuts in my diet. But if you can, yeah, they're a great option. Just be careful with certain nuts like cashews. They have quite a bit of carbs. You have to maintain almost like 70% of fats coming from the food if you're going to convert and keto adapt quickly. And quickly means probably 2 weeks. But for most people, because they'll be like stop, start, and the headache gets too much, they get too angry that they have some carbs and the whole thing starts again. It can take like 3 months. So if you just kind of stick with it for a couple of months, so for a couple of weeks, usually after the first week, you will start to be a little bit better. But then the full benefit is experienced like third and fourth week. And then you get this clarity and then suddenly you're not hungry. Because, I always have this thing where I get up and I'm starving when I'm not on keto. And I hate it because then I know that I'm going to eat all day. And I'm very little. I'm 5'1". I'm a very small woman. And, because I can't really move due to my health conditions, I have to control. Like the worst thing is to be chronically ill and fat for me. So it's like, no. Hold on, what is happening? Because I'm kind of seeing a bit of movement on one chart, but this one is kind of stuck. Oh no, it's the same. It's just a micro. I'm imagining things, people. Let's do platinum, actually. Yeah, I see that before we started yapping about keto. Let's go platinum. Platinum has gone higher than 1,000. So for me, 1,000 was like a pivotal level. We're either going to go into a swing, or if it goes higher, we basically break out into some more trends. But similarly, platinum has been so range bound. Now it's finally made a move. And the resolution of this whole mess that we've had for weeks on end is to the upside. So, we'll see. But as it stands, actually, let's have a look at the weekly chart. Maybe even a monthly. Is that still a little range bound? I mean, it looks much better than it did. So yeah. And what's a monthly chart doing? Ew, that's ugly. So monthly, again, very range bound. Where are we looking at? So current most recent range, about 1080, and then all the way down to, if we look at just candles, 925. So if this carries on higher, perhaps we do have some space at least to 1080. If it breaks out even further, then that's a trend. But right now, it's only a trend from the daily perspective. So really, we're looking at 1080 up here, top of the range. Now let's put it in the middle. Doesn't have to be super exact because it's just like ballpark top of the range. And what do we have in the options? Options today saying that we have space at least up to 1020. What are my quantitative extremes saying? Similar, so 1021, 1022 is ADR high. To the downside, because we did open above value, and it's probably going to open above value for COMEX as well. Actually, I'm going to give you COMEX value. So value high, 1006.8, so 1006.8 is value high for COMEX, and value low is 993.9. So basically 994. Since at the moment we're not that far away from it, I wouldn't be surprised if we go down to value first. And London value is further out. So I'm not sure whether that's relevant because we have average session range low at 1001.9. If we fall all the way down there, 1000 remains a pivotal area. So maybe we can go fishing for some longs again, long swings from 1000. So kind of no man's land here for me. Both sides of the story are still on the cards because it is a range and a very large time frame. just keep in mind the tops and bottoms of that range. So yeah, I wouldn't call this a trend just yet, because if we do get into a mean reversion, that's going to go straight back into the same range that we've been in for the last, I don't know, 2-3 weeks. So yeah. Interesting market, finally kicked up. Somebody gave it a line of something, or at least some quadruple espresso to make a move. So yeah, it looks like we might be having some platinum trades, not very far into the future, maybe even more today. This is the daily chart of natural gas. We are 7 ticks of profit. Oh my god, we can afford a happy meal now. We can afford a happy meal. Right, questions, okay. Alexander says, cool, all the things you know, doggo stuff, diet, and trading. You cover a big part of the spectrum of my field of interest. Well, it's because it's my field of interest as well. You know, I would say I'm a nosy person. BK says, energy volatility looks wild. It's more wild at the opens, like for like the weekend opens. I don't like doing swings there because it does these like opens of like 10% up or down, and it has no relevance to whatever the trend is doing. That's why nat gas is called the widowmaker. So yeah, it's but when it moves, it's a beautiful product. Like it just goes. Like you don't have to wait for a million years to see whether you're right or not. It kind of reminds me of old crude, back when crude oil was still fun. These days, it's like crude oil. It's like, oh, we had one opportunity and you missed it. And now we're sitting there and doing absolutely nothing. So platinum's selling off a bit. That's all right. My copper would have gone higher. It's okay. It's a Frankie fake out. It's more of a scalp. Like, 7 times out of 10, I wouldn't get the move on copper. So let's just check in with that. So it did go higher. I was long from down here, took it around here, and then it popped. And so yeah, could have held it, but the amount of times that I held Frankie fake out longer when it started doing that, I ended up with diddly squat. so all good. This way at least I have 495, 93. Could you please share the setting for your ribbons and explain how you use it? Yeah, ribbons for me are a low time frame tool that kind of helps me along with the time and sales or bookmap, depends on whichever one you prefer. Right now I don't have bookmap on this computer, so I'm working more with time and sales, which is a pain, I'm gonna say. I would prefer if I had my old computer, but that's still arriving. I had to buy a new computer because it didn't survive the move. Anyway, ribbons, low time frame. Now I will need to maybe get rid of the drawings just to make it a bit more clear. So once you see the market, like let's say you're expecting a breakout, and you have to use the ribbon with some volume analysis as well. It's not just like, oh, it's above the ribbon, let's go. Because what can happen is this. You go above the ribbon. The core way that I'm using it is that you need to be either above or below the ribbon by a very confident move that doesn't have many wicks attached to it in order to either stay in a trade or to initiate a new one, or to maybe even exit a trade. If you're in a trade already and you get increase in volume to the opposite side, and when I say increase of volume, I like to use the moving average of the volume. So now we're seeing increase in volume here, and that would be a valid entry for further longs, right? The area is not right, but to just explain how to use the ribbon, that is how. Very basic way of using it, right? If you are looking for reversal, let's say I'm looking for shorts, I would need to wait first and foremost for the ribbon to catch up to the current price, so some sort of slowdown. and then to have a signal for the decisive downward move, which would look like this. So to effectively exit the entire ribbon unequivocally. Now, the settings that I have is based around the 9 EMA, which is set to close, but then I also have another one set to low and high, also 9 EMA. That way, they will never cross. They will always go in sync. And it gives me a wider zone to work from rather than just staring at one single line of reference. So this way I can tell whether we are really breaking down or whether we're continuing. And as long as this thing is dancing on the line, doing some line dancing, that is valid uptrend. Do I always use it that way? No, I can't say that I do. But sometimes if I'm, let's say, running a bit of a scalp and I'm looking to exit relatively quickly. Relatively quickly in D terms means about 30 to 45 minutes. I will be using the ribbon. Or let's say we're coming to the time of the day when we are looking to, for example, get a reversal statistically. One of the big ones would be after 9 a.m. Central, after 3 p.m., right? But if you want to exit the trade, you can use the ribbon as well. So you will be getting to the time of day when you know it's like danger time for reversals, and you're like, okay, let me see what the ribbon is doing. So hopefully that makes more sense. 50K account, what would you recommend for maximum stop loss? I would say, hold on, there's someone at the door. Don't know whether James can see that. Oh no, it is James. I usually divide the maximum loss limit by 10 for any kind of new accounts. And that keeps you in the game for 10 days. Like, you really need to totally mess it up to blow up an account. If you have like 10 losing days on the bounce, you either need to change products or you need to seriously reconsider your strategy, because that should not be happening. Like 6 days, yeah, you can be a muppet for 6 days, but 10 days, it's like, are the market conditions different or am I different? Or is it both? I don't know. That's where the introspective side of trading has to come in. Gold, please. Jimmy, I would like some gold. You got some for sale? Gold, please. I mean, gold just hit the HVL. Like I said before, gold has a problem area between 3240 and 3250, and it's also in a range. We did gold earlier, so you may want to go back in time to listen to that. But just a quick recap: daily, it's in a range. Top of this localized range, ballpark 3250. What do we have at 3250? Dangerous option levels. So until that changes, short-term target 3250. Maybe even 3240 if we cannot break through it. But the top of the range is closer to 3250. So that would be my choice for shorts or breakouts. It's like a line in the sand. Where are we going to go? Where are we going to go? Where are we going to go? So yeah, we've done gold. So obviously maybe you're joining late. Okay. Just looking at the chat. Sassmate says, to be honest, keto and all is too much. You gotta live life too. Like, what is this obsession with living life and eating? You can live life in other ways rather than stuffing your face. That's how I look at it. But, I don't know. Anytime people make a statement, it's like, you've got to live. So what, do you think I'm like not having cake if it's somebody's birthday? I'm having cake. If I want a pizza, every so often I will have a pizza, but I just don't want to behave as if every day is a cheat day, which is how some people eat. And then they're like, oh, I don't know, I'm gaining weight. It's like, yeah, I wonder. Because, as a former bodybuilder, you have this concept of eating clean, and we can also use it with risk management. You know, you can eat clean, you can trade clean for 5 days. Then weekend comes and you can maybe do a playback of what's happened and go into, you know, one of those demo playback accounts and just go nuts to get it out of your system. And then come Monday, you eat clean again, you trade clean again. So I don't know, maybe that's bad advice. Again, this is not trading advice. This is, you know, I do my account, you do your accounts. You can listen for educational purposes, but do not blindly follow, obviously. Anne Marie says, how about curious, not nosy? Yeah, that's a better way to put it. Right. Living life is balanced and eating healthy. I would agree with that statement a lot more than the previous statement where stuff and face is considered living. In fact, I feel like I don't know how people can like just eat so much. I feel sick after like, you know, every time I'm in the States, which is not often these days, but I used to come quite frequently. I got married in Vegas, and one of my best friends lives in LA. And then I have another friend who used to live in Virginia, and now she lives in Washington, D.C. So it's like, you know, I have connections. Obviously, I work there too. So every time I go stateside, like your portions are just absolutely ridiculous, unless it's like a very kind of upscale restaurant. And I'm always shocked. Like one time I ordered a portion of green beans, and it was like $5. It was like more like a gastropub sort of situation. And they brought me, I kid you not, this is probably not news for those of you who live in the States, but you know, and this was LA, like middle of LA, one of those restaurants off Santa Monica Pier. And they brought me like literally a plate that was this big, full of, like, I think there was like 3 kilos of green beans on there. And I was like, just looking for a little bit of greens before like, what is this? It's crazy. And then you come to London and it's the complete opposite. You order a dish that's like, you know, 14 pounds and they bring you like three sort of shrimp. Awesome. Or you go to a kebab shop and they give you a ton of chips. That's a thing over here. Like the fish and chips shops, they have big portions or bigger portions. But most of the other restaurants, even if they're just like normal pub, it's not the same amount of food. So yeah. I'm a foodie. I'm definitely a foodie, but I'm just not in favor of like quantity. And I think the keto foods are really tasty. Really tasty. I would argue they're more tasty than some of the normal foods. Like, for example, what's better? If I could still eat beef, I used to love myself a good steak, butter, and then a beautifully made sort of Mediterranean salad that's seasoned well. Most places in the world can't season salads properly, and I hate it. So I usually make my own. I'm very good at salads. All right, let's go back to M&G because it's not really doing much at the moment. And while Crichty is losing his shit at the door, hey, be quiet. We should probably finish the stream. Crichty is saying enough. Yeah. How do you overcome mad when losing and not to? All right. Well, first of all, getting mad at the markets is a rather fruitless exercise. I'm just going to let the dogs out. Go on. Marcus out. Go on. Yeah, so, you know, what are you getting mad at? Yourself? The market? Price act? Like, I just don't really get the whole, oh, I'm getting really mad. It's like, what? So, you know, it's to do with self-awareness, I think. And also working with a valid level. Maybe try shifting your mindset towards probabilities. So let's say you tested a particular probability on a level. And let's say you know that, for example, VWAP just ballpark here, I didn't test this, but let's say ballpark VWAP works 65% as a reversal trade. If you try momentum trade, because one day you're thinking situationally it should happen that way, can you be mad at the market for then also doing the statistically correct thing of reversing from it, and the loss comes as a result of your actions, nothing to do with the level? So why are you putting emotions into it? And I think it goes back to the social norms, right? Men are taught to hold emotions inside, even in this day and age when we're a little bit more fluid with certain things. But I think there's still that division that women are allowed to cry and air their emotions. Men need to be strong. And I think that causes problems in trading when you're not emotionally aware. And you're not equipped to deal with the emotions that trading can impart on you, okay? And maybe that's the first problem. So don't look for the solution in the charts, look for the solution inside of us. Tomorrow we're going to have Neuro Wednesdays again. And I'm going to ask Jerome if he can maybe, I don't know whether he's listening today, but maybe I can ask him to prepare something on the rage. What is the cause of the rage? What are we angry at? And I know what he's going to say. It's probably something to do with when you were a toddler and you got angry because maybe you didn't get your way then or whatever. But for whatever reason, you are not well equipped to deal with your ego getting bruised. It's an ego thing as well, right? So you say, oh, I was wrong. But you will be wrong a lot as a trader. A lot. Like, look at me. I am 43% accuracy. Okay, 46. Whoa, I'm actually outperforming. How wrong am I? A lot. But when I'm right, I usually get between 2 and 5 R multiples. That brings my average profit factor to 1.56 and my average win versus average loss at 1.8. Why? Because I also have some scalps that are 1-to-1 or less than 1-to-1. But overall, I have a pretty high win rate. And this is not a trivial amount of trades either, right? Now, this is only from, this doesn't include the entirety of this account. So here we go. We have a sample size, losing versus winning trades, a lot of trades there, still maintaining the same thing. Do I get angry because I lose more than 50% of the time? No, I don't give a shit, frankly, because I know that the trades when I do smash it, it's going to cover everything. But obviously I'm pretty controlled. I don't do 100 trades per day. And I don't get angry when I lose. I just take it as a part of the probabilities. And sometimes you can have randomly distributed probabilities as well. So even though something says 70% of the time this should happen, and then you run into 2 weeks of the 30% happening every single day, and then you start to doubt yourself. And this is where we absolutely must unglue ourselves from thinking it that way. You have to be objective. You have to work on your ego and not having any ego. I went through this leadership thing where we were doing ego death, where complete strangers were basically just picking you apart completely. It was terrible, but it sort of makes you really change. I wouldn't recommend it. It was horrible. I would not recommend it. It was useful, but horrible. But it sort of made you numb at some point. You're like, oh, okay, so I don't care. So, that's the toughest thing. Ego in trading, getting angry at things that don't know that you're alive. Is it useful? Probably not. I find comfort in data, and I think Anne-Marie is very much like myself. We're very data-driven, precisely because it allows us to control our emotions a lot better, right? When I know the probabilities of something, it gives me confidence of whether I'm seeing the probabilities playing out in my favor or against it, which means I can just put it to the other box. It's like, okay, today that didn't happen. Is the other side, is the 30% of days when this happens. So you can't allow it to get too personal. You really have to, stay calm, breathe, do meditation. I used to love going to the gym, actually, and I used to go and lift some heavy stuff, get it all out of my system, get the glycogen reserves out of my body that actually kicks off the fight. That's the fight or flight fuel, glycogen. and then adrenaline kicks off, glycogen reserves start to be used to fuel you for this fight or flight. But who are you fighting? It's the markets. It's not a saber-toothed tiger. But here's the thing. Our brains can't tell apart the difference from the real death threat and a bit of money lost. It thinks you're under attack, right? And that's why a lot of people get the fight or flight symptoms. Your heart rate starts pounding. You start getting sweaty palms. Your breathing gets shallow. All the things start kicking off. Your tunnel vision. All of that is a sign of a fight or flight. If you feel that, you can't keep trading. You have to stand up, go do something else, have a walk, do some burpees, lift some weights, anything until your rational brain comes back. Now, I like bodybuilding because it brings me to that equilibrium quicker. But these days, after 18 years of getting kicked around by the markets, I just don't react to anything. I'm dead on the inside. A joke, right? But no, I love it. I absolutely love it. But if you're not self-aware, that's going to cause so much stress. Trading should be fun. Trading should be a means to have more resources, not more stress and worry and, whatever else you might consider trading to be. So you have to learn to let go. So however you can get to that point, whether it's meditation or a combination of self-awareness, meditation, exercise, you need to start doing that. Otherwise, you will never move forward. Do you trade primes? That says, do you trade on 5-minute time frame? Honestly, I trade on all of them. If you notice, when we're talking and when I'm looking at things, I am bouncing through different time frames. I'm going from 1 hour to 30 minutes to 1 day to 2 minutes to 5 minutes. That's all a part of my OODA loop, part of my OODA loops, which stands for Observe, Orient, Decide, and Act. Both Anne-Marie and myself have talked about this before. I've been using OODA loops since 2018, and I even put it in my pro development course. That's in level 3. So it's kind of like I teach you all the levels and everything, and then we get to a point of how you actually manage a trade if it needs to be managed. But yeah, flipping the time frames for me gives me different pieces of information. So for example, 15 minutes, no higher high yet, but still a green candle and still hanging above 9 EMA. 30-minute chart, doji, indecision. However, we pushed into the candle. Nothing else to glean from it. 2-minute chart, pretty messy, but still hanging or trying to hang above the little ribbon. 5-minute chart, bullish engulfing, right? But still range bound. So all of that kind of gets, somehow digested in my brain. And I have a pretty decent idea of what the market is doing. Would I recommend it for everybody? No. But intermediate traders might have a use for this because you will always have a pulse on different time frames, right? So let's say 5, 15, 30-minute, 4 hour. If I'm running a swing, I don't stare at a 5-minute chart. I will only have 30 minutes in a 4-hour chart and obviously my orientation levels, and then I just look at how the price moves around them. So hopefully that helps. On what time frame do you scalp? So here's the thing. I don't think I use any time frames for scalping. I would use Bookmap, but I don't scalp very often, okay? I scalp when the day is range bound, when we have a neutral day and there's no possibility of a swing. My scalps are between 10 to 30 minutes long, and they usually carry between 30 to 50 ticks of profit in them. I would never scalp for 3 ticks. It's a complete waste of time. You rack up commissions before any profits, okay? Now, I know that in, combines you don't have commissions. You do have them in live. I'm sorry, but you do. So, yeah. Right, final question. Do you have a daily goal you try to hit? Never. Wrecked? Never. Why? because it leads to bad trading practices and because the market is one big uncertainty environment. We don't know what the day will bring. So what use is it for me to try and squeeze blood out of a stone when we have nothing moving that day? I take each day as it comes, but at the same time, I do have a set number where I stop. So I don't, like, it's a difference between, oh, let's make 2 grand today. And, oh, look, I've made 2 grand. Let's stop. It's a hugely different mindset, right? One is chasing, do or die, have to make 2 grand or, the world is going to fall apart. No. If I get it, I get it. If I don't get it, I'll take whatever the market gives me. So to me, that leads to much more objectivity. It leads to much less stress. And I don't expect anything from the markets. Nothing, right? Nothing. I come to trade and I'm just, let's see what it brings me. And then if I end up down, I don't over dramatize it. I just go, okay, well, that didn't happen. Like yesterday, I was looking for shorts in HG, in copper, didn't get it. Did I cry over like, oh, that's this under? No, it's just like the way I look at it, I'm just like, didn't happen today. It's okay. It'll happen tomorrow. Or if it doesn't happen on the short side, maybe this is a change of trend. Maybe I can look at it from the long side. I have no expectations. Nothing. Paul H says, for looking at long time frames monthly, I see NJ is in a range going back to 1991. I'm wondering how far do we look back? Not that far, Paul. That's a little bit too far. I look at 1 month and only as a loose idea of where we are, like compared to like the previous sort of 5-6 months. That's all we need. Markets change a lot. So for me, I'm looking at this low at 198, which was November 2024, and then this August 3rd of March 25 at $5. That's the range. So you only want to look at the swing highs and lows in the last sort of like 6 months or so. Anything else, it's irrelevant for intraday, completely irrelevant. And then weekly chart and daily chart are again more directional. We're at the bottom of the range on the weekly, and we're also in the demand area, also bottom of the range on the daily, which is why this particular trade makes sense. Do I think this is the start of an uptrend? No. I just know that we're having a pivotal reaction from a nearby demand that we've just reached. That's all. I'm not looking at this from a swing point. I'm not going to run a swing on it. I'm especially not multi-day. Might run an intraday swing, but knowing that London usually goes one way and then New York takes it the other way, at the moment this is not a NYMEX trade. It's just a London trade. So yeah. All right. I think we're done for today, guys. I think we have Brett Steenbarger coming on later. Is it today? Because I know they mentioned him yesterday. I don't have my notes. They are on the other computer, so bear with me. But yeah, I do believe we have Dr. Brett Steenbarger. Please try to make it because he is amazing. And of course, tomorrow we're going to have our own Dr. Jerome D to do another Neuro Wednesday with me. We're going to ask him to talk about rage and why it happens, how it happens. I know that the solutions for the same problem will be very similar, visualization, breathing and stuff, but I would like us to touch upon the causes, the possible causes of rage in trading, because it is a very interesting one. Thank you for being here with me. You will see me again, like I said, tomorrow for Neuro Wednesdays, but also for fast markets tomorrow and lunchbox trading. So we are busy this week. Until tomorrow, have a great day. Stay controlled. Breathe when you feel like you're a fish out of the water, when you get a little bit annoyed by the markets, and you will be much better off. This has been the Euro Trade. I'm Marcus Talker D, and I will see you very soon. Take care.